Hello everybody and welcome to Development Hell number 10, Diablo Immortal Story and World, Gameplay and Activities Feedback Video. I am Dredscythe and I'll be continuing to lead you on through this multi-part video feedback for the Diablo Immortal Technical Alpha that the greater Diablo community as well as influencers and myself took part in just over a couple of days ago, and give you my impressions and feedback on it. So for this video, story, world, gameplay, and activities is a monstrous amount of stuff to go through. So I'm going to do my best to cover as much as I can in as short of amount of time as I can. Just giving brief impressions, feedback, and anything that I feel strongly that may need to be looked at or not, go through there. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So the story and world aspect of the game, the world, the zones you go into, the world itself feels really big. There's quite a few zones that we go into. Each one has a very unique feel, a very unique atmosphere. The mobs that we fight along the way are unique to each zone. Some of them feel very familiar, some of them are new, and it's all very great. It feels very Diablo in nature. Doesn't feel like it strays too much from what makes Diablo Diablo, but overall feels very good, feels very polished, even at this stage in an alpha, as well as some of the zones having unique, I don't want to say events, but it's like zone-wide events. Like for instance, the cemetery zone having the haunted carriage event, where you're basically tailing a haunted horse-drawn carriage to where the tax collector is at the end of it. You kill him and you get a couple rewards, but you basically run through the entire zone killing mobs trying to take out this carriage, and that's it. In the Biofen, there's the infamous arena, PvP arena, where every 3 hours a chest would spawn with a mob. You kill the mob, and then you as a player try to open the chest, but it's a PvP enabled area, so any players that are there that are not in a party with you are open to kill. So for anyone who's coming from a World of Warcraft background, especially the olden days, who knows what the Garibashi Arena event is, that's more or less the same as that. The chest, if you're lucky enough to open it yourself solo or in a group and you're live when that chest is open, you get a guaranteed legendary item. So there's a real incentive to try to be in a party or be the last one living to open up that chest. And lastly, in the Deadwood, there's a Purify the Corruption event, and what happens, it's a little bit, I guess the best way I kind of describe it, again using WoW similes, is in WoW there's like area events where you have to basically fill up the bar from 0 to 100%. This is kind of the same way. You kill mobs in the entire zone, and eventually you go from 0 to 100% corruption. And then there's a tree in the zone, a specific tree that you actually hit up during the storyline. So it's not just randomly placed there; it's actually part of the storyline. And then this tree sucks all the corruption out of you, makes a corrupted shadow version of yourself, and you have X amount of seconds to kill it, and then you get some crafting rewards, some other things from it. It's all great. For those particular unique events, not so much the PvP arena, because that's really good reward for the effort you have to put in, but for the haunted carriage as well as the Purify the Corruption event and any other event that they are planning, considering again we only got up to level 45 out of 60 in the game. There's more zones, there's more storyline, that they really make sure that those zone specific events, they don't have to amp up the reward, because I don't want to get tied down that old school mentality that the reward has to be really good for me to want to do them. It would just be if they added, like, even if they added regular gems to those reward structures, or a unique currency that's already in the game, but you can only really get one other way, to make those zone events a little bit more rewarding, a little bit more worthwhile doing, that would be great. They're good already for the basic crafting materials, but again, making sure that if something is going to be put into the game, it has the incentive to match it. And I think that's where my funk is there are great things to have in there, they're great things to do, but the incentive to do them isn't quite that high enough yet. So again, not asking for the world, not asking for everything to have a guaranteed legendary, because then that takes away from the PvP arena. But maybe having gems, maybe having honor in one of them, maybe the haunted carrot, since the tax collector drops a lot more gold. Maybe the corruption has a chance of dropping gems, or has a chance of dropping something that's corrupted, that you go to a vendor, you uncorrupt it, and it could be something random. Like, who knows? You're the developers, you're better at this. I'm just putting up what feels. So moving away from the story and world to a quick note on difficulty, because no other real better place to put it, is there are 3 difficulties: normal, Hell 1, Hell 2. There is a real difference between normal and Hell 1, and there is a real difference between Hell 1 and Hell 2. It's more akin to, definitely not as extreme. Let me say that. It's not as extreme as old-fashioned Diablo 3 vanilla, normal, Nightmare, Hell, Inferno. But there seems to be that same kind of jump plateau, so to speak, in its difficulty. It's not so linear as we're used to with 30,000 torment levels in Diablo 3. It's really good when you hit those difficulty levels, when you can go from normal to Hell 1, and you can stay in Hell 1 for everything, whether it's the normal world activities, the layers, the dungeons, anything and everything. And it's even greater when you can, even a greater sense of self-accomplishment when you can go from Hell 1 to Hell 2 and do all those things. However, again, the rewards, even though they say that it says specifically the rewards are greater, going from normal to Hell 1 and Hell 1 to Hell 2, even though that's really hard to test on an individual basis, let alone trying to do it through groups of people testing, I think there's a general consensus that Hell 2 doesn't feel any more rewarding than Hell 1, and Hell 1 doesn't really feel any more rewarding than normal. It's just, it felt like everyone kind of came to a consensus that, you know what, we're just going to go to Hell 1 and stay there, because why go to Hell 2? It was good enough to get to Hell 2 and be there, but for ease, and also because layers and dungeons are balanced around 4-person parties, it was kind of difficult to, at least for me personally. I could do everything in Hell 2, but doing a dungeon in Hell 2 solo took a lot of effort, took a lot more time than just doing all the things I needed to, and then when I needed to do a dungeon, go back to West March, set my difficulty from Hell 2 to Hell 1, and then go do that Hell 1 dungeon, bash it out, do it easy breezy, and then go back to West March afterwards, set it back to Hell 2, and then go back into the world. That was a lot better use of my time than just staying in Hell 2 and just bashing my head against the wall for dungeons. But other than that, if they could just make sure that difficulty is incentivized in a good enough way, where, no, I want to stay in Hell 2, then I feel that would be a great improvement from this current version of Techno Alpha to whatever the next version is. Hopefully we get the test. Cross fingers. Alright, so moving away from difficulty to gameplay, which is kind of like a big part of this, is skills. Skills are back to being the fundamental base of your class. Legendaries are there to truly enhance, refine, or redefine those skills in such a way that you feel what the build you're creating is truly unique to you. And that's even with you only really having a choice between one of 2 primary skills. For the wizard is electrocute or magic missile, and the 4 secondary skills that you can choose. because during my play of Alpha, I never felt like I needed one more secondary skill. Like I needed that 5th secondary skill. I never really felt like I was deficient, that my class was broken. That like, how can I make any build work because 4 is not enough? I never experienced that. And I went through different phases with different builds, and it was really cool to be back almost in that precious little time period when Reaper of Souls came out and Torment 1 through 6 was the highest difficulty, where as long as you melt some minimum damage number and some minimum health number, more or less, whatever skills you were using, that was generally good enough. So I remember hitting T6 in one season with a wizard doing a lightning orb build, and just lobbing lightning orbs and doing electrocute and all these lightning skills, and that was good enough. It killed things. I was able to do Torment 6 efficiently, and that's all I needed. I didn't need to have the best meta. I didn't need to reside myself to having to use all the fire gear pieces, because there were so many fire gear pieces in Diablo 3 in the beginning. It worked. So I was able to, like, this is what I want to, these are skills I want to use. This is the gear I have. It works. I'm alive. I'm doing it efficiently for my sake. That's all that matters. And that same kind of a mindset of, as you pick the skills you want, you get the legendaries to support them, and you're golden. And even though it sounds so simple, it needs to be touched on, because I think with Diablo 3, where we've been so used to, do the set builds, do the meta builds, like almost like the choice of what class we're going to play is determined by what Hedrick's gift is going to come out this season. And to be back in a world where we can just pick what skills we want, pick the legendaries we want, pick the legendary gems and regular gems, and just put them in there that best fit that build, is a godsend to have that back. It's a great mentality. As S3R would say, anytime where the player has to think, the game is better for it. So anytime that we, the player, can be allowed to think of what we're going to do, how we're going to execute our builds, and what skills we're going to use, it's so much better for the game, so much better for ourselves, because we're more involved, we're more in it, we're more active, and it's great. So, continuing on, to more highlight everything I just said, playing a wizard, it was great to know, like, going into it, I knew Ice Crystal, Ray of Frost, and then later learned Disintegrate interacted really well. But then discovering that Scorch and Meteor, since they have a ground fire effect, worked really well with Arcane Wind because of the Firestorm buff that really amplified the damage. So, getting there are 2 different weapons for Arcane Winds. One of them turns Arctic Wind from a cone effect to basically tornadoes you shoot straight out from you, and they do massive amount of damage, and they add that Firestorm effect. And then there's another weapon that basically turns your Arctic Wind into, like, basically heat-seeking wind columns. And that just stick out enemies and just sit on top of them and go until they kill them, and then they go to another one. It's great. It's like seeing your skill have this much difference with the legendaries right now in Immortal is a great thing, because it seems like they're trying to get as much diversity as they've tried with other Diablo games, if not more so, and it's great to see. Where I ended in Alpha was actually on top of having that Arcane Wind and Scorch combo, I also had 2 different legendaries that interacted with Disintegrate. One of them, Shoulders, turned it from arcane damage to fire damage, and also added a fire dot. So it was like more damage and turned it to fire. And then I had a pair of pans that added 3 smolder beams that shot out every when I would channel Disintegrate, that did a lesser amount of damage, but they were critical because when you're doing channel skills, whether if you know this, you really have to make sure all the mobs are in front of you. Otherwise, if you have one mob behind you beating on you, you can get knocked down. You have to stop your channeling. You have to reposition. It's a hot mess. So having a little bit of slop to where you can kind of position yourself in front of a big pack and maybe have one or two regular mobs behind you, those three smaller beams hitting the guys behind you, having the main beam kill 20 or more mobs in front of you, was an awesome feeling. And it was a drastically different version of the skill, that being Disintegrate, from its original version to this heat-seeking fire plasma Iron Man skill version of it. It was really great. The gameplay itself, not just skills, but just moving around and everything, is really fluid. You never really feel like the game's getting you stuck out of nowhere. They really did take their time. Pop-up events are great. They kind of break up the monotony of whether, like, you know, I'll touch on this in a little bit, but like when you're going around doing, say, like bounties, there's like pop-up events that, you know, you're gonna get ambushed by 6 mobs, so you have to kill them, or there's a general hunt where you kill 20 mobs in the area. But there could be like special, you know, those purple epic mobs that come up that you have to kill that will just literally pop up sometimes right underneath you. But there could also be like little mini events. There's a lot of things that kind of break up the monotony. So your gameplay is fluid, it's kept fresh, you're kept involved. You're not really given a chance to check out of your gaming experience. And really the last thing in the gameplay section I really want to touch on is elite packs are still there, so your groupings of blue elite mobs. Champions are in there, but they're not really packs. It's just that one solo champ mob that's there, as well as, you know, your epic purple mobs. Those are mainly your quest mobs, your bosses, and pop-up events only. And then there's these new legendary mobs, which are orange, and those are probably going to be your hardest mobs to kill, because they tend to have the most affixes, they have a lot of health, and they can do a serious amount of damage. When you get up to Hell 2 and, you know, you just stand next to one a little bit too long, you can get half your health smacked away. So you have to take caution, and it's nice that all that variety of mobs is in Diablo Immortal that we've come accustomed to and, you know, past Diablo franchises. So that's pretty much all for the gameplay section, and with that we're going to move to the game activities, and there's a lot. Things to note, there are a few things in here like Elder Rifts, Challenge Rifts, the Battle Pass. I'm going to talk about them, talk about my impressions, but I'm going to save any form of supposed pay to win or pay to progress feedback, criticism for Development Hell number 12, because I don't want to have to go into it multiple times over the course of multiple videos. I'd rather just hammer it in one video and keep other videos shorter. So with that, I'll talk about bounties. For as much as people hate bounties in Diablo 3, people will love bounties in Diablo Immortal, because you'll be able to do 12 bounties total a day. So you can only do 12. So, and they go by relatively quickly. You can get normal bounties, which are, you know, go this zone, kill 60 guys, go to this zone, collect 10 of this, you know, that kind of basic level stuff. Or you can get dungeon based bounties, which is basically just redoing boss encounters throughout the zone, essentially. The dungeon ones, they may take a little bit longer, but you get much more experience, gold, etc., along with possible normal gems along the way, which is a great incentive to do them. Also, you can refresh up to 3 bounties a day. So if you get, say, kill the blood countess. And you're like, I just don't want to go there right now. I want something easier. I got like 10 minutes. I do not have enough time. You hit refresh, and it's like a normal one where it's like, go to the zone and kill 20 of these things. You're like, perfect. I have enough time to do that. It's my final bounty. Let's get on with it. You have that choice. So that's great to see. That was something we weren't really expecting. Usually it's like, here, go do these 4 things, but you have the ability to refresh up to 3 times a day, each and every day with bounties is great. Also, bounties are a great way of getting honor, because that's the main currency you get through doing these. You get a charm after doing your first 4, which is really strong. You do get I think a normal gem for the 2nd and 3rd round completion. My memory's a little iffy on that, but I know you get at least 1 normal gem, I think, during the process, if not 2. What else about bounties? I think the greatest strength of bounties is that even though you're gonna do bounties are basically a way to get you into the world. So, for instance, just thinking out loud, if you went to the cemetery zone, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to this cemetery zone, I'm gonna collect 20 of this. So you collect 20 of this, and when you're going after you finish that first bounty, going to the second one, a pop-up event happens. Okay, so you go hunt, so say it's a hunt, so you go kill 20 mobs, and you'll get a glorious chest, you'll get some crafting mobs. So then you go to the second area, and another pop-up event will happen, like, kill this epic mob. So you kill the epic mob, you complete your second bounty, and then all of a sudden you get a dialogue pop-up saying, like, hey, the haunted carriage event's going to start in a minute, do you want to go? And be like, sure. So you'll go to the haunted carriage event, you'll complete that, you'll go through the zone, you'll get more materials, you'll get the tax collector at the end, you'll get some more higher end crafting materials from him, and then be like, okay, I need to go complete my 3rd bounty in here, and you'll go to that area, you'll complete it, and then who knows, maybe there's a legendary mob there, maybe there's a couple of leap packs in that area, you'll go kill them, and you feel really satisfied because you're not just completing bounties, you're actually more world farming at that point, that you just happen to be doing bounties. So the monotony of doing bounties day in, day out, same areas and everything, is really broken up by what you experience each and every time randomly in the world. And I think that's a really good feeling, and I don't think any of us really feel bounties are a bad thing in Immortal that we got to play. Dungeons are essentially boss runs. You can go in them, you get experience. They play exactly the same as they do in the storyline, as they do in when you run them as a dungeon only. They're good, they're great. If you don't feel like, if you're not really that kind of a player, you're not at a loss for not doing them. But they can be good sources of experience and normal gems. If you get high enough, you can say Hell 1 or Hell 2, you can get to a party and you do them efficiently enough. But again, the reward structure for the difficulty needs to be up there first, and then that will make the dungeons, by consequence, better to run itself. Layers, kind of think of them as random dungeons, like, or kind of how there would be like random events in Diablo 3 zones that may or may not be there depending on when you loaded into, when you logged in to your character. It's not too much of a different concept. So you'll go in, there'll be, and the only thing you really have to do is that there will be a layer boss you have to seek out and kill. But through your time there could be a lot of things that we do. Like there'll be a epic level cultist you'll have to go find and kill if you stumble across it, or there'll be like, a simple thing like, oh, there's rats you have to clear out. I'm sure there's going to be more and more unique tile sets and more unique things you'll be able to do in layers as you go through. They only had a set amount of things ready for alpha. But it was still really good to see because, layers actually a really good source of experience, some normal gems at the end, and every once in a while, at random, you can get a portal to a second level, which is you get to do everything again, which gets you more experience, more possible, rewards, crafting materials, and etc., etc. And it's just really good because it kind of plays that whole dungeony, random world exploring experience that we've been used to in the past with Diablo installments in the franchise. So again, as long as they can add more things to layers, more events, more things, layers will be continue to be a good addition to the game. Now, Elder Rifts. Now, Elder Rifts are, out of everything here, are kind of like the meh thing, because without legendary crests or rare crests, which again is more of that whole pay the win question that's going to be handled in Development Hell number 12, you do them, you can get some experience, but a lot of us and myself felt like for the time used in an Elder Rift, which essentially for us who played Diablo 3 is just essentially normal Rift, we could just be out in the open world, killing those same elite packs, killing those same champ packs, but with the addition of being in the world, you have those pop-up events. You can just have regular or glorious chest spawn. It was just more efficient and really more fun to be in the open world than it was in Elder Rift. So if they could figure out a way to make Elder Rifts more fun or tie something to them that wasn't too strong, that's like, ugh, now I just have to grind Elder Rifts till my eyes bleed, I feel that would elevate Elder Rifts from meh to something of actual substance. Now, conversely, challenge rifts, which were used to being like, we're just doing this for the crafting materials, the act mats in Diablo 3, in Diablo Immortal, challenge rifts are amazing because they finally did something that I've been screaming about. Even though I am not a top level player at all by any means in Diablo 3, seeing top level players in the community, it was like Diablo 3 in itself does a piss poor job of celebrating your accomplishment on the leaderboards. There's no reward for like first place, second place, or top 10 or top 100. There's nothing there. The game shows the leaderboards, shows you being the top one, but there's not even like, like a home screen on the leaderboard where it shows the top clear for each of the classes and then the groups. That is drastically different with Immortal. In Immortal, there's a global leaderboard of between all classes. So if you Mr. Leviathan, who got a CR 87 down on his Demon Hunter, on the global leaderboard, it showed him as being a Demon Hunter, clearing an 87 at his time, and him being rank 1. And that was between all classes, all people who have attempted CRs, period. And then there were the individual class breakdowns as well, which naturally, since he was the highest number 1 globally, he would be the highest number 1 Demon Hunter. And on top of that, not only was it displayed, his accomplishment was displayed in both of those ways, the top 10 players got rewards. And again, it boggles my mind that it's taken this long for the game to properly incentivize and reward players for their effort. It's not just a pat on the back. It's not just, you got number 1, and the only people who will really know, the people who care. It's like, no, it's there. And you get rewarded for it. And you get rewarded for it weekly. It's a weekly reset for these rewards. And you want them because a part of the rewards you get for the weekly reset are legendary crests, which are huge. Again, we'll touch on Development Hell 12. So challenge rifts are a big A+. Even if I never hit top 10, I will always appreciate that the game is rewarding players' efforts, which is huge, and something that I feel has not happened enough in the past. So I've mentioned the pop-up events before, so I'm not going to go over that again. I'll touch on the battle pass, but a part of it. A part of the battle pass is actually quests, and these quests can be really random. Like it could be collect like 5,000 platinum, collect 60,000 gold, kill 50 or 60 elite packs, find one legendary item. They can be really random, but in that highly random field, along with the guide, the codex, the guide, the exploration, doing the activities, which is everything I mentioned before, all contribute battle pass points towards your battle pass. So most of us within the first week of alpha were like really close to the end of the battle pass. We're anywhere between level 30 and level 40, which is level 40 is the end, and we were really close. So if you're just diligent, like you don't have to be a taskmaster about it. Like if you just play the game naturally, you'll move through that battle pass pretty easily. And these quests just help give you a little bit more incentive to like, okay, I'm logging in. I really don't know what I'm going to do today. You know, let me look at what quest I have. Like, okay, I have to go kill 20 elite packs. Okay, just go in the open world. I'll go to Zone Cool's library, or I'll go to the Deadwood, and I'll just roam around the world killing elite packs. You know, it's the little things that give you incentive to go into the real world or do dungeons that keep you playing but don't make it monotonous, and that's huge. So with all that, again, the story world, gameplay, and activities for this video, I really feel like, again, just like the other video, it's like a 9 out of 10. A little bit more can be done, a little bit more can be tweaked. But overall, where the game is with these specific things in mind, everything is really well put together. And again, I am really happy, a little bit surprised, and a little bit shocked at how great the game does in these aspects. So for that, we're gonna end this video by saying thank you for watching. You can see more on blizzpro.com, and like I said in the previous video, eventually all this stuff will make it to my personal website at Dredscythe.com. And until the next video, have a good night.